how am I creating value for that person and staying in the conversation in an authentic, not pushy, I need a shower later way.
Yeah.
And again, the stats don't lie. About 50% of people don't follow up after that first touch.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't make the money that they could. Sales is the highest paid profession if you do it right. And you gotta touch at least 8 times.
In today's podcast, we sat down with a farm girl from Iowa who was raised by a single dad and is the youngest of 4. She spent 20 years in the health and wellness industry, teaching people how to take care of their health and develop wealth. She's had a personal training studio. She was an investor in gourmet coffee. She loves and cares about people. She also tells us about the tribulations, the hard times, the hard stories about how she was previously a realtor and when the housing market crashed and the recession set in, and how she lost her own house and had 3 foreclosures and lost her car and was literally down to nothing. And she sold her way out of it. Selling was the answer. You see, selling is a service. Sometimes people think selling is a bad word. We talk about that in today's podcast. Really, it's about connecting with people. It's about connecting with your audience. It's about being a good listener. Speak less, listen more. It's product versus person. And we learn those values in today's podcast.
My name's Travis Sims, and I am the founder and CEO of AGC Accelerated Global Connections. And this is the AGC Experience.
Our lives are a series of choices. Each choice leads to a result. Would you like to easily know which choices are the right life choices for you? If you've never met Amy Tyson, owner of Infinity Life Design, make it a priority to connect with her. Amy is a master of feng shui and batzi, which she calls destiny analysis. She assists her clients in understanding the hidden forces that are influencing their lives. A destiny reading with Amy is like reading a book all about you. She highlights which decisions will bring you to your fullest potential and which choices will lead you down a path of obstacles. If you're struggling with a challenge or you want to lift your life even higher, get connected with Amy and Infinity Life Design on facebook.com/infinitylifedesign or subscribe to her online newsletter at infinitylifedesign.com and connect with your infinite life.
Well, I am super excited to be here with my friend Lois Koffi. Lois and I, gosh, you're probably one of the first people that I met coming into the Twin Cities about 4 years ago. We hit it off immediately. Matter of fact, I would even venture to say that we've become like pace partners for each other, which is really cool because you run at a high speed and you have lots of energy. Maybe it's the coffee, I'm not sure. But if you don't know Lois, Lois has been in the health and wealth industry for 20 years, and you're so healthy that you wouldn't know it's been 20 years. Oh my gosh! But you have a passion about helping people and coaching them through and training them. Wealth, health, mindfulness, mental health is really important to you. You're an investor in a gourmet coffee company. You are a travel guru with iBoomerang. You have this whole Lois Koffi Enterprises. I mean, you're like a brand of yourself. But for the few people, and it's probably a few that don't know you, I would love if you would please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and what your passion is for life. Just let the conversation flow.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you so much. I value you, your friendship, and the opportunity to be here today because I really admire what you've created, and I hope to bring some value to your podcast today.
You always do. This is going to be a treat for the audience.
Awesome. Well, I was born and raised on a farm in Iowa, raised by a single dad. And through that process, being a farmer and kind of following him around, I was the youngest of 4, I really got to learn a hard, committed work ethic. And whatever you do it with excellence. And I also saw him selling. And so ever since I was little, I could sell ice to an Eskimo.
That's awesome.
I know a lot of people, especially if you're out there and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid of selling. I don't even like the word sales. I think I was set on this planet to help people shift that paradigm. And I've always seen selling as service, helping people fill a need. And that's why I'm not ashamed to admit, I've sold real estate. I've sold health and wellness products. I've sold fitness packages. Now I'm invested in a company that I can help sell travel. And through that process, it wasn't about the product, it was about the person. And really building that trust and rapport and helping them fill that need. And through that process, I will also share, because I love sharing my story. I've had massive success when I went to college for broadcast journalism, growing up on a farm with a single dad and an older brother. I was a tomboy. I was a huge athlete. Played college ball and all that. I thought I was going to work for ESPN. So it's cool to be here doing almost like a radio show, because that's what I did in college. But
cool.
I was also health conscious, didn't really understand that. But when I got into the industry, it was pretty toxic and unhealthy. And I was like, this isn't for me. So I got out of what I went to college for right away. And I landed in real estate. And within my first, I think it was a year, I was making 6 figures with only working about 10 to 20 hours a week, give or take. And I learned really quickly that I was good at connecting, and I was good at doing less with doing more with less time. And so that's kind of the message that I bring forward to today, is helping people in sales do more in less time. I'm kind of as an Ironman triathlete, I kind of became I don't want to say, I don't know if an expert's the right word, but just being able to manage my time choices and managing my health. I went through that real estate industry. I made multiple 6 figures. You all know what happened during the Great Recession. Nobody saw it coming, and I was one of those people. And even though I was massively successful at sales, the value of then going through the recession and losing my mortgage company, having 3 foreclosures, having my car repossessed the day before my 30th birthday, and I thought I was going to be a millionaire by the time I was 30. That I share that, even though that seems like a massive failure, it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because I also learned compassion, how to start all over. I lost my health through that process, and I had a checkup from the neck up, and really also saying, do I want to be a salesperson who compromises my health and overcommits? Because I got into that arena, and I said, no. Health is wealth. That's why I got involved into healthy gourmet coffee business. I really learned a lot about Chinese medicine, and now, having gone through 20 years of massive success, massive failure, but again, it was a great learning experience. Starting a family, becoming a mom and a wife. I bundle all of that experience into Lois Koffi Enterprises now, because I just am really empathetic to salespeople and what they struggle with. Starting new businesses and not having any money. I've been there. Succeeding at a high level and compromising your health. I've been there, and everywhere in between.
Oh my gosh. I've taken a page of notes already in this conversation. And there's a few things that I want to comment or follow up on. And first, we share a few things in common, which is kind of fun. Maybe that's why we hit it off right off the bat. Iowa, Indiana, right? And small town. My parents weren't farmers, but my grandfather was a farmer. And farm kids learn a work ethic. I mean, unlike I think anyone else. It's that, I grew up detasseling corn, putting up hay, probably things that you did also. And you helped. And when schoolwork was done, there was not TV time. I mean, you went and you helped and you did your chores and so and maybe I think a lot of what we accomplish and do as adults is a result of the things that we learned as a child when we were impressionable. When we were being taught the traits and how lucky we were to have that.
Yes.
So we share that in common. And you said a couple things about sales, and I want to lead our conversation there, because this podcast is full of entrepreneurs and salespeople and CEOs and executives and professionals that are watching or listening. And I know that you have this big background in sales, and sales has almost become a dirty word, right? I mean, like, you don't want to be sold to, and all these things. And I think it's just learning the right way to sell. And the thing that I know about you, Lois, is that you're great at sales, and it's not because you're a hard salesperson. It's because you really authentically and with integrity connect with your customers and with the people that you're speaking to. So, give us some advice. I mean, when you're thinking sales, what kind of advice would you give to someone starting out in sales?
Right on. Well, first of all, there's this lie or fallacy that you have to be an expert in whatever the product is. It's really about knowing yourself and being authentic. Moving forward, faith and fear can't coexist. And so having faith in yourself and belief and Think and Grow Rich, I'm sort of quoting from that book. I would highly recommend people in sales read books like that, and obviously podcasts like this.
Sure.
But really, truly having a mentor. When I started out in sales in real estate, I had a mentor, and I hired a coach right away. And they kept my mindset going and that accountability and level of commitment, because I spent money. Right?
Yeah.
I knew if I'm spending this money, I've got to make some money. So I really, really made that commitment. Like I'm not just going to spend the money and not do anything with it.
Yeah.
So getting that daily is like I took piano lessons as a kid, and that got me into the mindset of every day I got to work a little bit on this to get better. And so that's what I teach my clients, and what I learned through being an Ironman triathlete. And you just got to keep working every day to get a little bit better. And through that process, you develop that muscle.
Yeah.
You, again, go back to my fitness background, but you get better. You can't run that marathon day one, right? You just do little bits every day, and over time, you learn better how to say things, because that's the first thing that a lot of people have fear in sales is, what do I say?
Yeah.
And I teach people on scripts. For some that works, for others it doesn't. But the main script is just, tell me more about you and your family.
Yes.
Tell me more about your occupation. What do you do for work? What brings you joy in your daily, vacation, vocation, not vacation. Tell me more about what you do for fun. And then what is your dream or your mission or your message in life? And when you allow them, the prospect, the person you're connecting with at a networking event like we did at AGC last night, what's in it for them is what's in it for me.
Yeah.
Connecting with that person, finding out what their interests are. You and I have a background in networking, and that's really what it's all about, is what's in it for that person. And then they see that you care about them, and no matter what you might be selling, I get excited when I hear that word. Like my heart flutters.
Yeah.
But I really want to help. That's my goal, is to shifting that paradigm, because if you have that mindset that selling is bad or it's a dirty word, guess what? You're projecting that onto that person that you're sitting with, and they're likely going to say no.
Yeah. I think the reason that selling has become that dirty word, although I'm in a total agreement with you, that it's because we've all had a bad experience with it, right? Someone who just did it terribly. And those people that you have this interaction with, and you're like, oh my gosh, I got to go home and take a shower after this. It's awful. And so I think it's because they just don't even know. They don't know how to go about it. And so you said some really great things, and you heard it from Lois Koffi, which is be a good listener when you're selling. Be a good listener. And get to know and build a relationship with your customers. I'm a firm believer that people will buy what you're selling if they like you. They're buying from you. It's not about the product. You said I could sell ice to an Eskimo earlier. and I think that's because people would buy whatever you're selling because they like you and they believe in you and you care about them and they know it.
Yeah.
You mentioned networking. And I think a lot, obviously I run a networking organization, AGC, but no matter where you're networking or whatever organization whatever room you're in, networking is important to sales. But I think a lot of people come to networking events to sell, what advice would you give them?
Forget about the selling. Make it more about the relationship and the authentic connection, and don't try to work the entire room. Like last night, there's 250 plus people there, and I've got thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people in my network, so I don't need to have a lot. But even if you're just starting out, set a goal before you walk into that room and say, I'm going to connect authentically with 2, maybe 3, maybe 5. If you're brand new, you could probably handle more. Like I can even show you. I have them in my pocket because I'm going to follow up with them, right?
Oh, nice.
So I actually made 4 connections last night. And I actually had that conversation. They gave me their card, and now I'm going to follow up with them. And I didn't want any more than that.
Yeah.
So now I know I have the time to follow up with them. I have notes that I'm going to make on the card about the conversation before I forget. And then just to be able to, follow up with them with excellence and start that conversation and find ways to stay in the conversation is the next step.
Oh, I love that. Because I think no matter where you're networking, people are attracted to the big rooms. Like, I'm a part of this 40-member group, or I'm a part of this event-based organization that draws 100+ people at their events and things. But it's not about the 100. It's not about the 40. It's about that 2 to 5 people that you connect the most with. And one of the ways that we were structuring AGC was that you did that networking in the front where you're meeting lots of people. You're inspired and motivated, and you learn together in the center. But that last portion is a very intentional part, and that's where you take action, and that's where you follow up with those 2 to 5 people that you want to take it to the next level with. And so you brought out some business cards, and you collected a few business cards. And so I'm curious too. I guess I'm learning today, right? I'm learning, and I love this that we can learn together. And what advice would you give to salespeople that are collecting cards at events like this? Because I at one time in my life, I think I became a networking-aholic.
Yeah.
Like I was at anything you could exchange a business card, anything where there was a coffee meeting, if there was drinks and cards, I was there.
Yes.
And I don't think I did it the best. I've learned a lot since then, but what advice would you give our audience?
100%. I learned that from day one in my first sales career. Is I have a CRM, a client relationship manager, so I make sure I get their contact information and the notes that I said I would take on my card, because I'm flying back to California today. Truth be told, I don't live in Minnesota anymore.
I know, we miss you. But...
So I got a CRM, and I also have backup Excel spreadsheet, and I have an assistant now. I didn't when I started, but I have data entry assistants to help me with that, and then I have what I call an 8x8 campaign.
Okay.
Because in sales, this is actually, I have webinars, and I can always, give you a free webinar link, but I've trained on what I call lead generation. And this is lead generation. Now you have these leads, so now what? And so I put them in the CRM, but I have a plan in the next 60 days or 8 weeks to touch them 8 times.
Okay.
Because the statistics have shown that it takes anywhere from 5 to 12 contacts before you can make that sale. And there was actually a study, I love sharing this story, I learned it when I was in real estate. There was a fictitious fake realtor, we'll call him John Doe for the sake of today,
Sure.
And they picked a subdivision of these homes, I can't remember if it was Arizona or California, and they mailed a direct mail campaign for 8 consecutive weeks with John Doe, with different housing prices, hey, list your home with John, all these different messages. And at the end of that 8 weeks, they called every homeowner in the neighborhood, in the subdivision, and said, if you were to list your home today, who would you list with? And 80% of them said John Doe.
Wow.
They didn't ever get a phone call from this person. They didn't know him. There was nobody else that was consistent in their follow-up within that neighborhood. And that was where I learned that the 8 touches is critical. And that's part of what I coach people on, is how to do the follow-up. We don't have time for that today, but you have to have an intentional touch or an item of value, a reason that they want to talk to you or receive your phone call, or a reason that they want to receive your mailing, or a reason that they want to receive your email. It's all about how am I creating value for that person and staying in the conversation in an authentic, not pushy, I need a shower later way.
Yeah.
And again, the stats don't lie. About 50% of people don't follow up after that first touch.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't make the money that they could. Sales is the highest paid profession if you do it right. And you gotta touch at least 8 times, kind of filling that funnel and building that trust, that trust share of why would they want to work with you? And if they see value and they see that, you know, you're being authentic, they're always gonna buy from you. They don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it as well. So putting in that messaging, your passion, your true authentic self, your own message, and that's going to carry a huge amount of weight. And truth be told, you know, that's why I've been sought after and recruited by companies like Organo, like Boomerang, and what I did in real estate is I was very good at meeting someone on day 1, and by day 60 or 90, I was their consultant for life, or they became a business partner, or they became a customer because I followed that 8x8 system.
Yeah. I'm so glad you shared that because I agree. And I think that's the piece that most salespeople are missing is that, I mean, we all, any of us that are in sales, like we have a mortgage to pay, we have a car payment, or we have bills, the lights have to stay on, right? So we have to be able to make the sale in order to stay in business, in order to keep the lights on and all those things. And we want to do it in the right way. And I think a lot of times people are like turn and burn. You know, it's just like, just meet as many people as I can. They said no, and they move on to the next person, hoping they get a yes. Yeah. And what you're suggesting is more about the long game. It's about that 8th touch. And you're right, everyone gives up. You know, they give up after the first. And that's the farm kids coming out in us, right? You know, going, oh, we got to go out and milk the cows. Oh, we got to go out and put up the hay. And it doesn't wait. Yeah. You have to go do it. And the follow-up is I'm going to use this, and this is so, I've said this a couple times. The follow-up is the FU in business. No one wants to do it, but it's essential. It's needed. It's something that you have to do to be successful.
The fortune is always in the follow-up.
Yes.
100%. Yeah.
And you said the word time a moment ago, and you referenced that, you know, you have someone that helps you create some of these things. Time is our most valuable asset. It's the one thing we can't get more of. And I know that you identify with this, and why you've been so active in the health and wellness industry for so long is because time is limited. And we want to be healthy while we're on this earth. It allows us to do the things that build the businesses that we want to build. And so time being the asset, what advice would you give to people that around their time and in sales? How do we manage that?
It's a great question. And it's my favorite one.
Oh, good. Unscripted, folks, I promise. Yep.
So I don't know if you've ever read the book, The 12-Week Year.
I haven't, no, but I think you recommended it to me, and another person I just ran into also recommended it to me, so It must be a hot book right now.
It is. It's a New York Times bestseller. I mention it partially because I am certified to train people in it. When I read the book, Travis, I was like, oh my gosh, I could have written this book. And kind of a story that'll, I think, resonate with a lot of people in sales is when in my first 10 years in sales, I wasn't a mom. I wasn't a wife. I could go train and do 5-hour runs or bike rides. I had extra time. But a lot of salespeople, if they're parents, they have kids, they're strapped. I've coached a lot of them, and I've seen them. And so when I had the recession happen, you know, my health was definitely compromised. I started having babies. So for like 6 years, I did well, but I felt I had that mom brain all the time. I was very scattered. My time started getting sloppy, meaning my time choices, there's no such thing as time management. It's time use and your time choices. And so when I read that book, 6 years into, you know, parenthood, wifehood, all these things, I actually was blown away and brought back to pre-motherhood and was like, oh my gosh, I just got to manage my time choices better. Yeah. And I got more done in that next 6 months than I had in those 6 years preceding. And it was all about having an ideal day. How you start your day is paramount. I would do my miracle morning. I would meditate. I would get, some good fuel in, stay hydrated, and then have my day planned out on paper. Jim Rohn always said, when do you begin your day or your week is when it's finished on paper. And I am old school. I actually have tools that are still paper tools that I give to my clients. I call it my daily compass. And you put the big rocks in first, your 20%. I recommend getting most of that done before noon, because that just seems like, for whatever reason, noon and the rest of the day, that's when all hell breaks loose, and the fires and the phone calls and the challenges and the kids getting sick or whatever. And so if you can master that day and minutes and hours and all of that, and every week, kind of at the end of the week, reflect, how did I spend my time? Most people don't reflect enough. And when they reflect upon it, then you can change it. You can shift and say, you know what?
Sure.
I really need to do my lead generation during this hour, because I have I'm free from distractions. This is when I need to do my follow-up. This is when I got to do my workout. This is when I got to do my meditation. I'm always teaching people on lifestyle, because I learned from not making those what seem to be minor things major things. So I make sure that I'm always teaching people reflect, have everything on paper, but reflect, and don't like, it doesn't have to look a certain way. You can always change it. But without that planning, without that reflection, and really measuring the return on investment for your time investment, people get on that hamster wheel and that rat race, if you will, in sales, and then they're not making the most money that they possibly could. In the 12-week year, I recommend it to everyone, even if you don't work with me as a coaching client or a sales team. Read it. It's super powerful.
That's great advice. I'll use this analogy, and that is with like a sports team, championship sports teams. I mean, they practice. They don't just show up to the game and do the game, right? They practice, they prep, they play hours and hours of running the wind sprints and running all the plays. And then afterwards, after the game, they watch the game tapes and they study about, what could I have done better? Where did we fall down, and where could we improve, and all those things. In sales and business, it's not just about when you're in front of the customer. It's what you do before you get there. It's what you do after you've left. That's what makes someone great rather than good, or excellent in the notch of sales and business. And this hasn't happened by accident for you. You've had an amazing career, some places where you fell, where you studied the game tape, and you succeeded beyond measure. And I've been asking your advice this whole thing, and it's because you are speaking, everywhere. Like you're speaking and training and doing workshops and coaching and all these things. And you've developed a global brand, a global business. You are able to help people everywhere, wherever you're listening to this podcast or watching it. So I would like to know a little bit about the business, Lois Koffi Enterprises. What are some of the things you're training, teaching, coaching? How would we find you? That kind of thing.
Absolutely. Well, the first place to go is my website. It's just simply my name.com, www.loiskoffi, KOFFI.com. And I have a lead-in, a free 2 weeks of coaching with me. It is online coaching, and then that's where people start. And I give several hours of free recorded coaching calls and all that kind of stuff. And I just want people to have that opportunity to start that conversation with me for free. Yeah. I do also speak to sales teams. I do webinars almost every day. I have a YouTube channel. People can go and find me there. My vision is, I call it the Koffi Sales Formula.
Nice.
My vision is to be able to pour into people and inspire them to think differently about sales, inspire them to live a healthier, higher, best version of themselves life, so that they can make more money and still have time for their family and and whatever their goals and dreams are, I want them to accomplish that. I also do the one-on-one coaching. I also work with corporate sales teams. I have corporate sales products, things that I've gleaned from my mentors that I can also share and keep them going at all sorts of price points. So everything from free to one-on-one coaching and everything in between.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I gotta say, in the time that I've known you, just seeing you grow and just, I mean, you've leveled up every single year. I mean, and it's just such a pleasure to watch, and so is deserving for you. And you are our first AGC member in California.
Yes.
That is so exciting because we have a few AGC members in Indiana now. We have a few AGC members in Iowa now, which is kind of fun. But California, I could visit there, especially in the winter. I'm just saying. But you came back. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary. You flew in for it, and you're here on the podcast today. And I'd just like to ask from you, because you were an early adopter. You started with me from the very beginning. What about AGC for you?
Oh my gosh. Well, since you're like my brother from another mother, right?
Yeah.
And we have similar passions for helping people.
Yeah.
When you said you were starting this, didn't even have to think for a second that I wanted to be a part of it, because I love being a part of something at the ground floor, being an early adopter, as you said, and seeing it grow and flourish, and to help you be a part, to grow that with you and for you. And I didn't want to miss out, even though I moved to California. I want to help you expand this all over the world, and being able to reconnect with the people that I've met over the past year, the education, the speakers. Your format is so refreshing, because I've gone to a lot of different networking after network after work. Great organization. I'm all about learning and growing myself, because as I grow myself, I know myself more, and it helps me even after this presenters. Then when I go talk to people in the room, we have a conversation piece, and there's another way to connect with people. So I think what you're creating is so unique, and I like to be a part of great things.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to do this with you. It's just so awesome. And if you're listening or watching today and you've enjoyed this podcast and you've learned from Lois Koffi like I have, and you've made lots of notes, also look for her talk. You did a talk for us.
That's right.
It's available on YouTube. If you go to our YouTube channel, search Accelerated Global Connections, you're going to find Lois Koffi's talk, and it was fantastic. It's a very memorable one, and I'll say not only because you were the speaker, but we were on a rooftop.
It was so beautiful.
It was gorgeous with the Twin Cities sky drop in view. It was just fantastic, and so you did an amazing job. People are still talking about it, so please go hunt for that YouTube presentation that you did. It was just amazing. So.
Thank you.
All right, I would like to say thank you for being on the show today. It's so great to have you here and to do this with you, and I thank you so much. And if you're listening or you're watching at home, I want to say thank you for tuning in to the AGC Experience. By the way, the AGC Experience is how we are getting AGC out in the marketplace. It is our social capital. So please share it. Please tell others about it. It's a way to be inspired. It's a way to learn. It's a way to learn the person behind the business, right? Which is what my favorite part is learning about you and your passion and what motivates you and what makes you different and what the why is and all those things. So keep listening, keep watching, hit that subscribe button, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
This podcast was produced by Elation Studios. Go to www.elationstudios.co to learn more. Elation Studios. Discover your voice, clarify your vision, build your life.